Alrighty, well, hello sinners. How are ya? On today's installment of the Letterboard of Truth, our quote of the day is, Jubilee, more like poop and pee. I'm really sorry about that one. Jubilee, please don't sue me. Jubilee. You know them, you love them, and I'm sure you've seen them all over because every commentary YouTuber has reacted to them. It's almost like a rite of passage for us. Think of commentary YouTube as a nightclub, where Codyco's the bouncer, and the only way for us to get in is if we guess the secret sober person. But today's a special day, because we're going to revisit my friends over at Jubilee for the first time in 2 years. Last time, we reacted to a video called I'm an Incel, Ask Me Anything, and it kind of popped off, so thanks everyone. Today, we're going to take a look at one of Jubilee's most recent videos, If Christians Were 100% Honest. The original video is less than a week old at the time of recording, and I've only watched the first 30 seconds of it, so I have no idea what to expect. So you're gonna get my live, unfiltered, authentic reaction. All right, there's no script today, baby, just goofs and gaffs and my man JC. Not gonna lie though, I did take a peek at the comments just to see what I was in for, and I'm a little scared. In times like this, I really wish YouTube didn't get rid of dislikes, cause at least from what I've read, this video hasn't been received well by Jubilee's audience. So we're in for a lot of fun today. The topics that'll be covered today are the LGBTQ+ community, abortion, premarital sex, non-Christians going to hell. Isn't that just heartwarming? Fear of death and fear for non-believers. I should also mention that all the participants are completely anonymous. Their voices have been disguised and the Jubilee crew does not show their faces, which I guess is why they're more forthcoming with their opinions. And I have a sneaky feeling today that my blood pressure is gonna be through the roof by the time we're finished. And since we're on the topic of finishing, I think you'd love to hear from today's sponsor, LELO. And to answer your question, your eyes are not deceiving you. I am wearing a different shirt. Did you know that women masturbate less than men? Women tend to be shyer when it comes to their own self-pleasure and even their intimate health, and the primary reason is shame. Because of this shame, women are more prone to suffering in silence rather than talking to someone about their issues. As a sexual wellness brand, LELO strives to empower and educate their users rather than just marketing their products. By normalizing conversations regarding sex and self-pleasure, it allows us to be more secure and in charge of our own journeys of self-discovery. But everyone has different tastes, right? What works for me may not necessarily work for you. Different strokes for different folks, as they say. This is why I'll be showing you 2 products today instead of just one. To start us off, I am so excited to introduce you all to the Enigma Cruise. I'm not exaggerating when I say that this is one of the prettiest sex toys I've ever seen. This is a sexy sex toy. Try saying that 5 times fast. Anyway, LELO's Enigma Cruise is a dual-action sonic massager created for those bold enough to delve into uncharted waters in the search for the ultimate treasure known as the blended orgasm. It offers the best of LELO's sonic wave technology on the outside while gently pulsating on the inside for total pleasure. This toy automatically increases intensity when pressed hard against the body for controlled and consistent pleasure every single time. The Enigma Cruise has ultra smooth premium silicone that is extra soft to the touch. Like, it feels very nice in my hands. LELO's body safe silicone allows for a pleasurable and hygienic experience. Finally, let me reintroduce you to the Ida Wave. I received the Ida Wave back in June when I worked with LELO before, so she may look a bit familiar, but to refresh your memory, the Ida Wave is a dual stimulation massager created for those curious enough to delve into the search for the sexual awakening of their true self. The Ida Wave utilizes wave motion technology, which means it mimics a finger-like motion. The insertable tail rotates while simultaneously carrying over the vibrations from the head, satisfying your G-spot. The Ida Wave also offers a hands-free experience with the LELO app, where you can play around with 4 additional settings. There really is an app for everything, huh? LELO's app also allows its users to customize the pattern rotation slots, giving you more control of your experience with the idle wave. Now, if you put them side by side, there is a noticeable difference in size. Because of this, I find that the idle wave is better when you're cut for time, but you still want to engage in some quick self-play. Meanwhile, the Enigma Cruise is perfect for long sessions by yourself or with the partner, and you want to explore blended orgasms. So take time to relearn who you are with the Enigma Cruise or the Ida Wave, and you can even get them on a huge discount this Black Friday. After all, they are the gifts that keep on giving and keep you finishing. Thank you once again to LELO for sponsoring, and by supporting amazing companies like LELO, you are also supporting me and the channel, and for that, I thank you as well. And now let's get back to your scheduled programming. Before I start, I want to give my usual disclaimer that I preface all my religious content with, so if you've heard it a million times already, I will make this part a separate chapter, and you could skip ahead if you'd like. I understand the Christians that'll be featured today do not speak for all Christians. I'm sure there'll be plenty of Christians who come across this video and agree with what I have to say, and I'm sure there'll also be plenty of Christians who come across my video and disagree with what I have to say, and that is okay. But believe it or not, despite my personal beliefs, I do have quite a few Christians in my audience, so shout out to my Christian sinners. But I still want to make it abundantly clear that this video is not meant to slander Christians or Christianity as a whole. I support everyone's right to practice the religion of their choosing, as long as their beliefs do not harm others or themselves. I actually grew up in the church myself. I was raised Roman Catholic. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 8th grade, so that would be from when I was 5 to when I was 13, and I gradually stopped going to church by the time I went off to college. Even though I identify as agnostic/spiritual these days, I still feel like I have the authority to critique Christianity because I was involved in the church for over half my life. But regardless of what is said today, please keep the comments section kind, civil, and respectful. And with that being said, now that I've hopped off my own soapbox, let's begin.
What if you could speak your mind without fear of judgment? We brought together 7 strangers, protected their identities, and created a space for them to be completely honest. What will be revealed when they take the mask off?
There is something wrong with LGBT people.
Okay, so if the light behind the participant is red, that means they agree with the statement, and if the light behind them is blue, that means they disagree with the statement. Let's see, do they think there is something wrong with LGBTQ plus people? Not there being 5 out of 7. I'm like speechless right now. I mean, who's surprised? But like, oh my God. All right, let's see what they have to say.
Yes, I believe that homosexuality is a sin, but saying that like LGBTQ plus whatever.
You got this, bestie.
People, there's something wrong with them as people, as human beings. That's a harsh statement.
Yeah.
So it's a hard topic.
Yes, I would definitely say that's a harsh statement. LGBTQ plus people are just people at the end of the day, and who we are attracted to or who our gender is doesn't make us a good or bad person. It is what it is.
This is a really sensitive topic because I know that a lot of LGBTQ people have been hurt by the church.
True.
They've been hurt by Christians.
Yes.
I personally have family members who identify as they, who are homosexual.
Yes, there are only 2 genders, they and homosexual.
While God hates sin, he loves the people, and he loves the homosexual, and he loves the transgender.
Amazing sentiment, Dimitri. I just have a quick note. While homosexual is a noun, transgender is not. You would say a transgender man, a transgender woman, a transgender person, the transgender community. Transgender is a descriptor, not a noun.
Because he died for them. But the problem that I do see with LGBTQ people is that the lifestyle. It does take away a lot of things.
What's being taken away from me? You can live a normal life and be gay. Like, I don't understand. What is being taken away from? Our rights? Maybe. Oh, too close to home. And I fucking hate when Christians call it a lifestyle. No, this is just who I am. I'm just gay. This isn't a lifestyle.
They're depressed, they're lonely all the time, and that's not.
What? I mean, okay. Okay, I'm depressed. I do have clinical depression, but it's not because I'm gay. It's just I'm a little f***ed up here. The reason why many LGBTQ plus people suffer with depression is not because they're gay or they're transgender or bi or pan or any identity under the LGBT umbrella. It's because of people like you who don't accept the LGBTQ community. And, you know, we're a social species. Humans are a social species. And we want the people around us to accept us for who we are. And when they don't, and when we're told like this, that our lifestyle is wrong, that leads people to kill themselves. That leads people to mentally spiral because the people around them don't accept them for who they are. That's why so many people in the LGBTQ community suffer with mental health issues because of this. And obviously homophobia isn't the only reason why LGBT people have mental health issues. There's an array of reasons why people have mental health issues, but this is a huge reason why, to answer your question. You didn't ask, but
When you receive Christ, the Spirit of God can deliver you from homosexuality.
it's not delivery. It's Jesus Christ. You can't cure homosexuality, buddy. That's not how it works. You don't just turn gay. Like, I didn't just wake up one day and like, I want to be a full-time carpet muncher. That's not how that works. And people who say that God or Jesus cured them of their homosexuality are in huge denial because you can't do that. You can't just get rid of your homosexuality. It'll always be there, whether you acknowledge it or not. And of course, you know, labels, and for some people, sexuality is fluid over time, but you don't just turn straight or turn gay. You just are. You were born this way.
And I've seen it happen with people who identify as bisexual or homosexual, and God delivers them, and they no longer choose to identify that way.
Yeah, they no longer choose to identify that way, but they still are. I didn't choose to be gay. At one point, I'm sure I would have chosen to be straight. Nowadays, I'm very confident and happy in my sexuality. I love being a lesbian. I love being unapologetically gay. And I'm happy that I have such a huge platform where I can encourage, you know, queer people who follow me to also be unapologetically queer. It's not something you have to cure. It's not something you have to treat. It's not something to be delivered from. There's nothing wrong with being gay. There's nothing wrong with being bi, queer, transgender, non-binary, whatever. I feel like the tension and the rage filling up in me, but I don't want to go off too soon.
One thing, you know, the Lord says that if you have sinned against one law, you have broken all the laws. And so every single human being is wrong. Like, if you ask that question, homosexuality is wrong, well, sure. But are they a different type of wrong? No, they're not a different type of wrong. They are the same wrong as I am.
I feel like we tend to magnify
Interesting
the LGBTQ
take.
community. For example, I come from a Hispanic household, and sexual abuse is brushed under the rug so many times. Straight. But you choose to magnify, let's say, my gay cousin over my uncle. You know what I mean?
Facts.
It's
Yeah.
What? 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 Henny, bestie, you are not equating being gay and sexual abuse. What? Holy shit. Let me replay that. Hold on.
I come from a Hispanic household, and sexual abuse is brushed under the rug so many times.
I mean, that's terrible. I'm so sorry if that is a situation she has had to face growing up. Genuinely, like, from human to human, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. But to say that being a sexual abuser and being gay are one and the same or equally as bad is just so fucking preposterous.
But you choose to magnify, let's say, my gay cousin over my uncle. You know what I mean? It's
Facts.
there's something.
Facts. Yep. Shut the f up. Respectfully.
And the question is then, why do we magnify the sin of homosexuality? It's because no one goes around saying is okay, that theft is okay. But there are people going around saying, well, love is love and homosexuality is just...
Well, yeah. That's literally what it is. Homosexuality is just two people of the same gender loving each other and building a life together. Meanwhile, and theft are both wrong. You know, you're taking a life. Theft, you're taking something of value from another person. Both of those are crimes. Being gay is not a crime. And I hate those Christians who say that all sins are on the same level, all sins are on the same plane. So the sin of homosexuality is apparently just as bad as murdering someone. What?
And they're trying to justify it. And so the church has to do some sort of defense. And that's why this sin gets more attention than the others.
Yeah.
And so they can escape their shame, not by marching down a street shouting pride.
We're not shameful. You're the ones who make us shamed, with saying like this. That's why a lot of LGBT people are shamed into not coming out as soon as they want to or at all.
They can escape their shame by casting it on Christ and receiving his forgiveness.
Amen.
I don't need to be forgiven of anything. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Me existing isn't doing anything wrong. None of us have to apologize for being part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Women who get abortions are murderers.
Oh, God. I have a feeling all of them are gonna agree with this one. There you go.
This topic, gets me emotional because I've just seen people go through that and, and they feel it in their soul and in their spirit that it was wrong. And they deal with that pain and that shame and regret.
I mean, I'm sure, some people who get abortions do feel regret afterwards because it's not an easy decision to make. Some people don't have a choice but to get an abortion. If the, person carrying's life is at risk, sometimes that's the only option.
My husband himself, him and his sisters, they are all a product of rape. And I mean, that's my husband. So to imagine that, he wouldn't be here if his mother didn't decide to keep them and raise them, it's sad to think about.
I mean, I'm sorry that your husband's mother had to go through that. And I'm sure that must have been an awful thing for your mother-in-law to go through. And I'm so sorry that she had to experience that. But while your mother-in-law did make that choice, the key word in that is choice. She chose and decided to keep them and raise them. Being violated in such an extreme way with, something such as is very hard for anyone of any gender. But with women / anyone who is assigned female at birth, that's a hard choice. Like, some people choose to carry the baby full term, some do get the abortion, and that's not an easy decision. Like I said earlier, there should still be a choice, because if someone is raped, they shouldn't have to carry the baby, especially if the person who was violated was very young. That's not something we should force upon people. I think people should have the right to choose.
Maybe it was not in a good experience. Maybe you were raped. Maybe you were a victim to something. Maybe it wasn't planned. But let me tell you something, God, he's never early, never late. He's always on time. And the fact that you were given this gift of life, and if you can't handle it or you can't take care of it, there are options.
What the They did not just call a gift of life. No. Saying that, being it was meant to be by God or whatever, that's such a insult to sexual survivors. Like, holy, you call yourself a child of God, a child of Jesus, religious leaders who preach to love thy neighbor, yet you can't even sympathize with the victim, saying that, they should be grateful, it's a gift of life. No, off with that. I'm blown away by that. That is probably one of the worst statements of this entire video thus far.
Well, I'm just wondering then, what would you think of people who stand outside of abortion places and try to stop people?
It makes me so upset, the people who just protest and try to shove and judge and condemn others.
Agreed.
That is not love. That is not God. That is not
Agreed.
how you would handle people. Jesus is very gentle, and he would not make them feel like they cannot come to the Father because they are in shame or not worthy.
I agree. And plus, Planned Parenthood isn't just for abortions. They also do cancer screenings. They help trans folks with hormone replacement therapy. There's a lot of reasons why we need Planned Parenthood. And by standing outside and shaming anyone who walks into Planned Parenthood, you're creating an unsafe environment when they're just trying to go seek medical care. And what that medical care is really none of your business.
I think there's a misunderstanding about what people do who stand out in front of abortion clinics. What they're doing is not
them. They're not.
No, they intimidate and harass the people who do need medical care from Planned Parenthood. Let's make that clear.
And they're letting them know that there's options, telling them about crisis pregnancy centers, offering to adopt their children.
They're not just like, giving them a heads up, a little pep talk. They are preventing people from getting a medical service. A medical service that is none of their f***ing business. They are not entitled to say what is or isn't correct.
And if we all believe that abortion is murder, and we all just said that we do, well, then what it is mass murder. It's genocide in the United States. It's worse than the Holocaust. And so I wouldn't want to...
No, no, just simply no. That takes some gumption, some gall, some audacity to even compare abortion to the Holocaust. I feel like I've been lost for words for much of this video.
I have had sex outside of marriage.
I think it's going to be 4-3. I think 4 people are going to say that they haven't had sex outside of marriage, but 3 people are going to say that they have. Place your predictions in the comments.
Oh my God.
Whoa! Oh my gosh. 2 people have had sex outside of marriage and 5 people haven't.
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm at the right line now.
So I was kind of close. 4 people have had premarital sex and 3 people have not. Let's see how they try to justify that. Not that it needs justifying, but in their minds, it does.
We're on many cycles with that. Like, I've had an orgy with females. I've had, that one person you can just hit up anytime you want to and they're available. At some point you have to stop avoiding a sin because God hates not sinners, but the sin.
And you know what? I love my sinners. Shout out to all of you.
Steal, kill, and destroy. And I'm now married, and my husband abstained till marriage, and he has had to deal with the repercussions of my sin in the past.
I mean, that's totally fine. If one partner is more experienced than the other, I don't think premarital sex is a bad thing as long as everything is safe and consensual and you don't force yourself to have sex when you're not ready. So that's completely fine that he waited. It's completely fine that she did not. And I don't think either one should be shamed.
Yeah, I wasn't saved until I was 20. And before that time, I did have sex outside of marriage. And even when I was first becoming Christian, I would hear people say, oh, you can't have sex outside of marriage. And I said, okay, well, I'll do everything else. But I won't do that one thing because that's a really hard thing to give up.
Okay, I'm trying to think of how to respond to this. So he wants a pass for having sex or being intimate outside of marriage, but he still wants to shit on people who are gay or trans or who have had an abortion. It's so interesting watching Christians contradict themselves.
Yeah, if I can add to that, to be completely honest with you, I'm scared of sex. I had a very traumatic experience when I was younger where I've had family members intend to take advantage of me. And because of that traumatic experience, I just have had that fear to be enclosed with just one man in a room.
That is tragic to hear, and I'm very sorry she experienced that, and I do hope she gets the help she needs. I believe she's the one who said that is a gift of life. And obviously I disagree with that. That's a terrible statement. That's probably her way of dealing with her own trauma. And to that, I say that she should probably look for help outside of the church so she can work through that and come out on the other side. She does deserve to talk to a professional who can help her work through that.
Even though I have not lost my virginity, pornography has been something that has been rampant in my life. And that sexual sin as well is truly, in my spiritual experience, has been almost equal. Going wrong against God, going wrong against self, that brings so much shame, so much guilt. But when the forgiveness comes, we see the true glory of God because we see how broken we were and how reformed we are through Christ.
I can't imagine being part of a community built on shame and fear and guilt could ever be healthy. Everyone's entitled to be a part of whatever religion that calls to their heart. Just the way that they describe being a Christian doesn't sound healthy. It doesn't sound like a healthy way to cope with their own emotions and to cope with their own missteps and, trauma that they've gone through in their life.
Anyone who isn't Christian is going to hell.
This'll be good.
Yeah, for me, this one's a pretty easy one.
I love how he's like, oh, obviously. Who the fuck are you to say who is and isn't going to hell? If that is even a real place. Like I said, I'm agnostic. I don't really know. You know, no one really knows. You know, what's really fucked up to me is that if we applied this logic, a sexual user who is Christian and has repented has a higher chance of going to heaven than a non-Christian gay person. Something about that just does not sit right with me.
If we're Christians, when we say we believe in the Bible, either we believe what Jesus said or we don't.
Yeah, it's a tough sentence to answer, and to be honest, I suppose I can't just flatly say yes or no, so it's tough. But with that being said, what does Christian really mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, I said no because everybody uses the word Christian now, right? I believe there's Christians who aren't going to go to heaven.
T.
What about people who subscribe to, like, you know, say Judaism or Islam?
It goes back to the Bible. It says that to go to heaven, you have to confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord. And there's a lot of people who don't identify as Christians who believe that. What if there's a Satanist on his deathbed? At that moment, they confess with their mouth and they believe in their heart. Like, they didn't live their whole lives being Christian. Are they going to go to hell? I don't believe that. So I think to say that if you're not Christian, you're going to go to hell, it's kind of an absolute that drives more people away from Christianity than brings them in.
I would agree with that. She kind of popped off with that answer. I mean, at the end of the day, we really don't know if there is even a heaven or a hell to go to, so we really can't be the judge of whether or not someone does go to either of those places. And by the time that we know, we won't be around to tell people the truth. But I do agree that this is a very tough question to answer. But just like Miley Cyrus said in We Can't Stop, only God can judge us, forget the haters, because somebody loves us. So that's what I think. For Christians who are supposed to leave the judgment up to God, they really do love to do some judging.
I'm thinking of babies that have died, and I don't think that they would go to hell because they didn't even know how to make a sound.
God gives us a choice whether we want to spend eternity with him or whether we don't. And that's a free will choice that he gives to all of us. We all have to accept that we all are sinners.
As we should be. Subscribe down below.
And the wages of sin is death. The wages of sin is separation from God. But I've heard people's stories who didn't even know the Bible and had near-death experiences where they actually went and visited hell the way that it was described in the Bible.
I mean, I've never had a near-death experience, so I can't really say. But from my years in the church and from my years not in the church, just observing from the outside, most of Christianity is fear-based, which is why they attract a lot of people, especially a lot of vulnerable people. This notion that you're gonna go to hell if you don't listen, that instills fear in a lot of people. And it's like, oh, obviously I don't want to go to this awful hellfire place for all of eternity. So I'm going to listen to, you know, what my pastor says, what the Bible says. It creates this unhealthy view on Christianity where you're almost manipulated into your beliefs because they're built on fear and not on genuine interest or desire. Fear can make you do a lot of crazy things. I'm sure there are plenty of Christians who are in it because they love God, love others, and want to join a community with like-minded people. But a lot of Christians use religion for bad things, to manipulate people, to instill fear into others so they can get them to do whatever they want or believe whatever they want.
I'm scared of dying.
To live is Christ and to die is gain. That's my father's favorite verse. We are gaining eternal life. We are gaining a new faith. We are gaining a new body. We are gaining everything.
They all answer just as how I expect. You know, the end goal of Christianity is to live with Jesus and God for eternity.
I always say, I can't wait to die. My mom hates it. I always saying, it's like, God, take me now. Not suicidal, but we're always saying, but I get what you mean. I know what you
let's not, that seems a little extreme. Might want to talk to someone about that. I don't know, I'm not a professional, but.
Yeah, we're always like, God, just come take us. Like, we don't want to be here anymore.
Penny, bestie, you need to talk to someone because that's not genuinely, that sounds like a cry for help.
I fear losing my non-believer friends and family.
It would be the greatest pain
Interesting.
to go to heaven and not see your siblings there.
I mean, my dad isn't saved, and half my family are Catholic, and I can't imagine a more miserable place than away from the perfect creator of all things.
It just seems kind of patronizing. Oh, like, it's such a shame. Like, all these non-believers are not going to be up in heaven with me. Like, again, who are you to say? You don't believe what I believe, so you're gonna...
Going to hell, sweetie.
It just goes to show that a lot of Christianity is meant to strike fear in its followers. And that's not how you create a genuine following. That's how you create a scared population that's easy to manipulate because they're afraid of the big bad Satan of going to hell.
But ultimately, I know it doesn't depend on me. Salvation is in his hands, so it's not for me to fear or worry.
In the Bible, it says that it's God's will for everyone to be saved. But at the same time, the truth is that not everyone will. When I was an unbeliever, I would always wonder, why are Christians always wanting to shove their beliefs down my throat? We know what the Bible says, that people will go to hell. And if we don't tell people about it, that blood is almost on our hands.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna get some hate for this, but obviously I'm not speaking about all Christians here or in any part of this video, but I do believe that there is a certain population of Christians who shove their religion down other people's throats, not so that they could save unbelievers like they say. I think so they can feel a sense of superiority above non-believers. That's a hot take. I don't think they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. At least that part of the Christian community isn't. I think it's more of like a way to say, oh, I'm better than you because I'm going to heaven and you're going to hell. Not to sound insensitive, but it's almost like promoting an MLM. So if one person recruits 2 people and then those 2 people recruit 2 other people, then, you're all going to get saved. But it's like, are we really? We don't know.
We'll have you put your masks back on.
Front row. Ooh. Oh my God, it's like the Jabberwockies if they went full fundy. That was intense. It struck up a good conversation, despite all of the heinous things some of the participants said. To be honest, I'm not surprised at a lot of the answers, but at the same time, I know they don't represent all of Christianity, and I'm not going to hold every Christian ever to the words that these people said. But I'm really curious to hear what you guys think. Please feel free to leave all your thoughts in the comments. Just remember, keep it respectful, kind, civil, professional, whatever. If you would like me to do more stuff like this in the future, let me know. If you have any additional video ideas for me, I have a Google form linked in the description where you can submit those video ideas. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to give it a tiny thumbs up and subscribe down below. Thank you again to LELO for always supporting the channel. Thank you to you guys for watching, and I will see you next time with a brand new video. Bye!